by thee be happily ended through Christ our Lord. Amen. Just before we begin, I'm going to read out the health and safety note. In respect of protecting themselves and others from the risk of contracting COVID-19, members are strongly advised to practice good hand hygiene and observe the checkerboard seating arrangement. They should also maintain an appropriate level of social distancing during and after the sitting. Masks, preferably of a medical grade, should be worn at all times during the sitting, except when speaking, and I ask for the members' full cooperation in this regard. And indeed, I ask for their full cooperation as we move on to leaders' questions. Doherty.
Mica Redress, agus dúspóir boilm tréisiúil op legilite trid son ceart maidir le scanneal Mica agus Pirate agus an ceart acu agus fis acu cadé mar atá ceart agus cadé atá cór agus ní dóid bí grófhailte ribh chud na cinlínte a bhí a bógrú ar maidin nniu céad fan géad takeíart ach na rancan siad ar na sonraíonn sin tá imní ar go leor tealaí an gúnanáil agus níos fóideas boilm couple of art a history for the sin. I want to begin today, Yaskin Corley, by commending all those in their fight for justice for those who have been impacted by the Mica and Pirate scandal, particularly those from my own county of Donegal. Right up and down the west coast of Ireland, they opened up their hearts, they opened up their homes, they told us their own personal story, they told us about the impact of their crumbling homes had on them, their families, their mental health, and they fought for justice, they fought for what was right. From the school kids who came here and protested outside the gates to all of those around the world who supported this campaign, because these campaigners won the hearts and minds of the Irish nation. And they have moved the government into a position where I believe they never wanted to be, and a long way from where they were. This is a scandal that has devastated the lives of ordinary families, and it's a direct consequence of the Celtic Tiger era, an era of no regulation and light touch regulation. These are families who worked hard all their life, who scripted and saved to build a home for themselves and their families. And they want what every single person would want, and that is a place that is safe, a place that is secure, a place that they can raise their families. But through no fault of their own, they found themselves in a nightmare situation where their houses are literally crumbling around them. So they fought hard, and they fought a good campaign, and they deserve our praise today. But we've been here before, Taoiseach, and the devil is always in the detail and is in the implementation of these schemes. These families previously signed up to a scheme only to find out that it didn't do what it said it would do. This time it needs to be different. In our view, and we've raised this with you, it's our view that the housing agency, just like it did in the North Leinster Pirate scheme, should be tasked with delivering the scheme, and that families shouldn't be left to fend for themselves. But already we're hearing contradictory reports on what's on the table. We're informed that the campaigners were told this morning before Cabinet that what would be on the table would be €145 per square foot in terms of redress. We now are informed that that is only available for the first 1,000 square feet and a sliding scale thereafter. Taoiseach, I want to press you in relation to why the Cabinet made such a decision. I want to ask you, did you run the numbers and look at how it affects families in Donegal and elsewhere? Are you aware that the scheme that currently operates, that in relation to the costs that have come into Donegal County Council, the average cost for demolition and rebuilding a home is €150 per square foot? The average size of a Mica affected house in Donegal is 2,300 square feet. And with your sliding scale, that means that somebody will have to put and find €45,500 themselves to build their house. If they are the average one-off house in this state, which comes in at just shy of 2,600 square feet, under the sliding scale that your Cabinet has signed off on, they would have to find €56,000. Now, Taoiseach, families are asking, how could this be? Where will I find this money? I thought this was 100% redress. I thought the government heard us. Can you inform the Dáil, but more importantly, reassure those families that those aren't the numbers that will be applicable? Because if you run €145 for the first 1,000 square feet and 110 for the rest, That is the contribution that families would have to make.
Could I first of all say to the Deputy that every party in this House and every Deputy in this House is extremely well aware and very concerned about the devastation wreaked on many, many families as a result of the Mica scandal. And the scandal isn't about an absence of regulation. It's about a failure by certain operations to adhere to the regulations. And we need to call that out. And that needs to be, and those need to be held accountable for what transpired. That's the first point I would make. Because families need their houses rebuilt. And to be fair to Minister Darragh O'Brien, he's focused on this now for quite some time, working with the working group. I went up last summer to meet with the working group. I heard their main concerns about the last scheme, the original scheme, which was meant in good faith, and which you accepted and endorsed at the time. And so satisfied were you at the last scheme that you didn't even reference this in your general election manifesto. Those are the facts. Now, we also asked you, I would have asked your party leader, I know she can't be here today, she's on her way to the United States, I believe, but we did ask for you to submit your proposals, your specific ideas around how this scheme could operate, but you decided not to send any suggestions apparently to the working group or indeed to Minister O'Brien. But the new scheme will improve the 90% maximum grant to 100% grant for all remediation options 1 to 5. The maximum expenditure cap for option 1, demolition and rebuild, will be increased from 275,000, which is a scheme you endorsed, to 420,000. The new scheme will cost over 2.2 billion is the estimate. There will be a central role for the housing agency. There's clearer damage calculation. There's the introduction of an independent appeals process. Social housing will be, and homes will be remediated at a cost of about 180 million. And there are 900 rented properties registered with the RTB, and those also will be eligible, provided it's one rental property per household to the cost of 160 million. There's a fixed sum of 20,000 euros will be allocated to each homeowner for alternative accommodations, for rent if one, to leave one's house, for the reconstruction, and storage costs up to 5,000, and 145 per square foot for the first 1,000 square footage. And that is, now the Society of Chartered Surveyors Ireland, it develops the methodology, and that's the methodology that will be used. So this is they have an annual average, which at the moment the guide's at 138 actually. We're going 145 for the first 1,000. That will change again in April from the surveyor's guide, and will be guided by them and their methodology, which is a sliding scale. And if you talk to any quantity surveyor, that's perfectly understandable. There are economies of scale at play in the context of larger houses. What we are absolutely adamant about is not to disadvantage smaller houses, which represent the bulk of the houses covered under this scheme, by a flat rate, for example. And I think this is an appropriate way. We need to depoliticize the methodology around the pricing and the square footage. And we believe, working with the Society of Chartered Surveyors Ireland on an annual basis, and this scheme has also built in very significant inflation over the years. We've also built in certification and a state guarantee for remedial works, so that if one options 2 to 5, you don't demolish, you do some repairs and so on, or you will not be penalised if subsequently something untoward happens again, that you will have the option to go in for a second grant. And I think without doubt, I think the Minister has worked extremely hard with all of the parties to get a very comprehensive solution to this, and also to have the correct governance around the scheme to make sure that we can deal with a very, very pressing and unacceptable situation for too many families in Donegal and in other counties. And we're determined to get started on this now and to get the job done.
Minister, the devil is always in the detail. These families have gone through absolutely terrible situation. It's, and you can never realise it until you're invited into their homes and they tell you their own story and let you into their own personal scenario. We need to ensure that this scheme is fit for purpose. Now, I've asked you a simple question. I have the SCBI calculator here. I've just put in a 2,300 square foot home, and it says in the northwest, it says it would cost 334,000 to build, which is the same numbers I gave out earlier on. The problem is, under your scheme, which drops to €110 per square foot after 1,000 square feet, that family will have to find €45,000. That's a problem. That is a big, big problem, because these families don't have €45,000. And if they have the average one-off house, they will have to find €56,000. The SCBI calculator currently for the Northwest is based on a rate of about 145 or 1. It doesn't have a drop down to 110, which the Cabinet signed off on. So please explain to me this, and more importantly, say to the families that I'm wrong, that you won't have to put your hand in your pocket for that amount to actually have your home rebuilt that wasn't your fault in the first place.
Deputy, I just have to say to you that no opposition party replied to a written request 2 months ago after the working group report was published to detail their specific position on how the scheme should be improved. And you do need to answer that fundamental question. You could have got involved. You could have come up with your proposals and your plan, but you had no plan and you had no proposal. And the reason you didn't, is you simply want to exploit this, unfortunately, for electoral and political gain.
Please,
we want to provide a solution. Deputy, the bottom line is the deputy behind you endorsed this scheme back in January 2020, the original scheme, sorry, which was we accept not suitable. Now, we're saying to depoliticise the methodology around the costings here. We have the Society of Chartered Surveyors Ireland, which on an annual basis updates the square footage cost. They accept a sliding scale. Most people involved in building and surveying accept the methodology of a sliding scale. And we did not want to disadvantage the smaller houses. And if you look at the local property tax returns, for example, the vast, vast majority of housing in Donegal is in around the 200,000 plus mark. Now, I do accept that rebuilding costs can be more expensive than current valuations in terms of the cost of construction and so on. But it's a very, very advanced scheme than the previous one in terms of the 20,000 grants, in terms of all the upfront being dealt with. They won't have to find it.